Anyway, I'm gonna move on to the next subject here. We got about 20 minutes left, so let me. There was a recent Supreme Court ruling that overturned a federal ban on sports gambling. I don't know if you guys had heard about this or not. I could give a shit about sports gambling myself, but I think it's kind of cool that they actually did overturn this and put it back on the states to make the decisions of their own. If you want to go ahead and play that clip for me, please. Yeah. Waiting and waiting. My producer's running slow. Here you go.
Monumental ruling for sports gambling on Monday, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled to allow New Jersey to have sports betting at its racetracks and casinos. The Supreme Court announced that the legalization of sports gambling requires an important policy choice, but the choice is not ours to make. Congress can regulate sports gambling directly, but if it elects not to do so, each state is free to act on its own. The ruling could allow up to 25 other states to seek similar measures and could open legalized sports betting across the country. In the wake of the ruling, DraftKings has already announced the intention to allow sports betting through its app.
All right. So yeah, sports gambling, and what was it? What was that company again? DraftKings. Yeah, I've heard all about the DraftKings thing that was going on a while back. And when they first came out, people were going nuts for this particular platform, getting on there and being able to bet on outcome of different sports and things like that. And they were making a shit ton of money. People on the platform were making a shit ton of money, and that shit got shut down so quick. And I think they ended up taking the federal government to court over it. I don't know what the arguments were. I just heard about this recently, but I was just curious how you guys feel about gambling in general as a general concept. If it should be, banned, legalized, should we, allow people to do that? Should we not allow people to do that? Or what would you? Trent is
illegal.
Trent is raising his hand like the good class.
Yeah. Actually,
I'll let Trent head us off on this one. He's been awful quiet over there the whole time.
Gambling has been part of human civilization since before their civilization. Even Chinese funeral rites incorporate gambling as part of the mourning process. Yeah, it's funny that certain groups tend to go more toward gambling than others, but I personally don't like gambling. But I think people should be allowed to choose to destroy their lives if they want to. It's their money. As long as they have the money, they should be able to do what they want with it. If they want to gamble on something, if they want a small rate of return, they can do whatever they want. As long as they're not murdering somebody or stealing from someone in order to pay for their habit or for their practices. That's what I'm looking for. I'm completely fine with sports betting and things of that nature.
Stacey, you look like you had something to say.
I have a question and something to say, but who regulates, or does anybody regulate gambling in the United States? I mean, in Canada, I used to work for Ontario Lottery Gaming. So that's literally they regulate all gambling. So things like when you buy a lotto ticket, you buy a scratch ticket, you go to the casino and you put money in a slot machine, or you bet on poker. Or if you're going to bet like Proline and bet on like basketball or some garbage. We're not allowed to bet basketball here because we have a basketball team, but
I could be totally wrong about this. I could be totally wrong about this, but the way I understand it is that a lot of your, like the lottery tickets and things, are handled through the state. You actually have federal lotteries as well. I think the Powerball is done federally or nationwide. As far as gambling and slot machines and stuff, you have I imagine there's a shit ton of like specific laws you got to pass, because there's very few locations, namely like Las Vegas, they've got the ability to do it. On Indian reservations, they've got the ability to do it. And then you see like they've got
does somebody regulate to make sure, for example, that slot machine isn't rigged? Make sure that the company isn't saying, well, fuck it, we're going to put a 0 rate of return on this machine. Nobody's ever going to win. We're just taking your money.
Yeah.
I mean, are there regulations in place for that?
In a free market scenario, I would say if they do put a machine in there that's got 0 rate of return, It's only going to be, that machine's only going to be played for so long before people start figuring it out and going, don't play that one. That thing never pays out. And they're going to go somewhere else. They're going to take their money somewhere where they actually might have a chance of winning. I mean, you do have to kind of, allow a certain amount of winning for people to actually want to feel the need to return. There's no need for regulation in that case.
Yeah, it's basic manipulation. There has to be at least, I think it's like 1 in 10 success rate in order for people to stay around. Otherwise, if I just keep putting stuff in and it never pays out, no one's going to use it. If they see someone else win somewhere else, an exact similar machine, they're going to try again. So every maybe 100 individuals, you have to have them win big, or have 3 or 4 individuals win just a little bit enough to give people that incentive to say, I can win, I can do that.
Well, yeah, but realistically, I mean, if you're doing this free market thing that you're talking about, I used to work in a casino up here that did slots and poker and whatnot. And every single machine had the exact same percentage of payout. It was something like 94% payout. So 94% of what goes in comes back out. And we would pay out some days millions of dollars in an afternoon. And it happened all the time.
I'd rather let the company themselves handle it. I mean, because it's not going to take people long to figure out that they're rigged. I would much rather let the market decide who is going to win what level of winnings is my machine going to allow. And as far as just gambling in general, as a general principle, gambling itself, I don't have a problem with it. I'm with Trent on this one. It's like, there's no victim here. There really isn't. If I want to gamble my money on betting on sports or whatever, and I end up losing all the money, that was my decision. And then if I can learn from that decision and not do it again, or I can win and maybe decide, there's certain things that tell me, that certain signals that say, all right, it's time to stop. And if not, I've got an addiction problem. That's another issue that needs to be dealt with. But as far as making it legal,
thing, I mean, if your government is regulating it, here is your government is regulating something that is now caused addictions, a quote unquote medical condition in you. And basically they're now like what we do up here because our government regulates it. We have a government who is regulating, we are taking your rent money. Yeah, this month we're going to sit in front of this machine and you're just going to dump your money in there over and over and over and over until you have nothing left. To the point where we actually have a program in place here where people, if they have addiction problems with gambling, they can come in and sign up and they can bar themselves. And then it's our responsibility to chase them around the facility and kick them out and then bring them to court and charge them for trespassing.
Oh, Jesus, that sounds like a damn mess.
That's what I'm saying.
I just don't gamble. That's just,
The responsibility.
Security guards in there, they're chasing people around and taking them to court. And that's our whole job. And they pay us a ridiculous amount of money because they're government employees.
Yeah,
and we just chase people around all day.
And that's another reason, because you have, since it is state regulated, government's got to pay for you guys to do your job, and they got to pay for everybody else to do their job. So that's going to cut into the profits, or that 6% margin or whatever you're talking about on your machines. That's going to cut into it.
Exactly.
And eventually, what's the point to even having a gambling operation or having slot machines for people's enjoyment? What's the point?
But if it isn't regulated as a customer, I can't be guaranteed that your machine isn't ripping me off or that you aren't as an owner. And this is no longer fun, right? I mean, if I can't be sure that you're not stealing from me.
Right. And also in a free market situation, you could have certain businesses that are like the Better Business Bureau they act as a regulatory body, but not through coercion. They act as more like a homeowners association where you pay, I'm just brainstorming right at this point. I don't know how it would be solved, but this is a possibility that maybe as a casino owner, I pay this other company to, for the right to be able to go, hey, we've met all the requirements of this, regulatory organization here. We pay insurance through them, and in return, we get to put up their name on our marquee, and it's like a sign of trust that we are, legit and we're doing things right. There's ways you can do it that doesn't require the force of the state.
No, I get it. And that's why I asked if you guys are enforced by the state. I don't know how your gambling works there. That's what I was kind of getting at.
Like, as far as I know, right now, the gambling casinos and stuff are on like Indian reservations and things. They're in Las Vegas. I don't know how they handle all that. I'm not familiar with who actually regulates. I'm assuming the government does have regulation over that, which I vehemently disagree with even having any regulation over it on a government level. But I'm pretty sure that's how it works around here.
Probably.
Everything. I mean,
we
everything
have like
else is.
3 different ones on the same. Like we have 3 different company or groups, government groups that regulate all the same thing. Like there's the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario, then the Ontario Lottery Gaming, which is the company that actually operates the facilities. But all the regulations come from the Alcohol and Gaming Commission. Like even if you own a bar, they're the ones that decide if you get a liquor license or not, if you're allowed to sell booze there.
You're blowing my mind again. You're telling me there's multiple levels of unnecessary government bureaucracy to try to handle a problem.
Well, of course there is, sweetheart. We couldn't do this cheap and smart.
You're
We have
blowing
to have
my
a
mind
million
again.
hand in the pot.
You're blowing my mind. Like I can't handle this anymore.
Security guards need a separate license in order to work there. So at one point I had like an alcohol and gaming commission license so that I could work in the casino, and then my security license so that I could be a security guard. Like I can't even work the door of a bar without a license. And I have to pay for that license every year it expires, and I have to pay for it again.
If none of you have anything additional to add, I'm going to move on to the last couple of subjects here. Everybody good?
Good.
All I can say is that my dream of Tennessee bearded midget wrestling gambling is now come true.
Nice.
It's coming.